Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations, and I appreciate you being here. If you want to stick around, I'd love it if you'd hit subscribe if you've done it already. You know I love you. Today we're gonna do something fun. I was out thrifting and I came across this teapot. Now, I don't love the gray color, but I love the shape. How much fun is this? So what I thought was instead of this shape, instead of this color, what about if we funk it up a little bit? And I want to try my hand at doing some black and white stripes and some checkers and maybe a little bit of gold accenting, and we're just going to do it funky. We're going to do it fun. So to start, because it's pretty slick and because I don't want to be futzing with this because I'm going to be doing multiple colors and striping and stuff, I decided that I want to start by priming it. So I have the last little dregs here of a Zinsser bin primer, and I use this on furniture and stuff. I definitely use Salvation Solution by DIY as well, but you know, I got like a little baby bit in the bottom and I don't want to hang on to the big can anymore, so we're using this. So to get started, all I'm going to do is give it one coat. So I don't need it to be solid opaque coverage. All I'm looking at doing is, I know this is going to stick to this, and I just want to give a little bit of an easier surface for my paints to stick to. So yeah, I'm just gonna make it white. The other reason to this too, just between us, is I'm probably going to be drawing some cheat lines on this. So when I'm hand painting stripes and things, I know where I'm supposed to be going, and my pencil lines are going to show up better on white. Okay, so for the teapot, what I have got is I put the primer on, I put 2 coats of beadboard from DIY on, and then I have coated this in dishwasher safe Mod Podge. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to be putting this, once I've painted it, into the dishwasher, but it does mean that if somebody is using this for maybe flowers and they want to be able to rinse it out quickly, I want it to be something that at least is going to hang in there for that. So I've got that done on the base and on the lid. I want to do a lot of black and white on this, so the next step is to start adding the black. This is the scary part. So it's a little bit nicer, easier because this is sealed. Because if I do mess up, as I say it, because I'm anticipating I will, I got some wet wipes. I stand a chance of being able to clean it off, wipe something away a little bit. Not tons of time, but. So the first thing that you have to do is start thinking about maybe the kind of pattern that you want, how that's going to work, and you kind of go from there. I think I'm probably going to paint the knob gold. I know that I'm going to do a little bit of gold accents there. So I'm just going to kind of wrap that up to begin with so that I can have a baseline around it that I don't have to worry about. Now, when you've got curved surfaces, when you're going around and trying to create a line, it's not going to work. So you're going to have to do like some little pieces. So it's one of the reasons why on something like this, I really am not going to be doing a lot of taping off because it would be crazy making. And I will admit, I do a lot of, that's not working for me. I do a lot of stripes and things on furniture, not so much on little tchotchke things, but I like the look, so I want to play with it a bit. Just because I haven't done it doesn't mean I shouldn't do it or can't do it. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how well I do it. Okay, so for this, what I am thinking is that I'd like to do stripes. But because it's a curved surface, it's going to be, my stripes are going to be more narrow up toward the stem and wider coming out. Does that make sense? So what I am looking at is just to kind of start, I want to maybe have a line that's sort of straight on one side here and on the other side, just so that I have a little bit of continuity, kind of like if I cut it in half, that it would work that way. And so to do that, I'm just going to use my tape as a guide, and I'm just going to take my pencil and draw a rough line going up and down. Okay, terrific. So that kind of gives me a bit of an idea as I go. So now I can kind of draw a halfway line between that. And another halfway line between this. So the one thing to keep in mind as you're doing this also is that I'm going to want to be doing black, white, which means I don't want to end up with two black sections against each other. So I need to ensure that whatever my lines are that I'm doing an even number. Make sense? So here I could go black, white, so my black and whites are against each other. So I could divide this into two, I could divide these into two, or I can divide them into three, but I need to make sure that it's staying even. So I'm thinking up here would be nice if it was kind of in threes. And you can see I'm just kind of eyeballing this. I'm not looking at driving myself crazy with getting out measuring tapes. What I likely will do as well is take it down to the underside. So I want to, you always want to think, okay, this curves over the lip. How am I going to treat this? Am I going to take the stripe all the way down? Am I going to end it? So I'm going to just kind of draw a little point that's midway between my two external lines, and I'm going to kind of take that in a bit of a diamond pattern. Okay. Now for this, I am going to be using just like an acrylic paint. It's going to be easier. It's a little bit more opaque than my other paints. I'm not going to have to use as heavy a coverage. So I'm just going with that. And I'm just going to put a little bit out and use it to start. And I'm going to be using, I've got kind of a small tipped brush, and kind of a squared off brush, just to be able to paint these in. And I'm just going to try and go as straight as I can. Okay, we've got the lid done with black. We're just focusing on the black right now. Then I'll look at adding in gold. And all that I've done is I have striped the nozzle. Now it's time to start kind of planning the rest of this. And what I'm kind of looking at doing is maybe doing checkers down on the bottom. And then I may try, and I may regret it, but I may try and do some diamonds up in here. It sounds good. So what I am looking at doing is I do want the patterning to kind of go with the flow of this. So I'm using this rim around the bottom as my base, I guess, from that standpoint. And I want to have things kind of running sort of even from it rather than staying straight along here. So it does mean that this line is going to end up kind of dipping down, because as you can see, there's more of a base here and less here. So that line's going to kind of dip down for my squares rather than trying to even it off. Yeah, okay, that's what we're going to do. So it does mean that my checkers are going to get smaller toward this end, and they'll be bigger at this end, rather than trying to keep everything even. So one of the things that I'm doing is kind of trying to just lightly mark that off. So what I like to do is kind of work a little line around my pencil so that I just kind of know roughly, as I'm going around the circumference of this, roughly where the tip of my pencil should be. So I'm kind of drawing a line, trying to keep the top of my green there sort of even with that bottom line of the teapot. And again, I'm not sweating the fact that this isn't going to be perfect. Okay. So, yeah, it comes up a lot higher here, lower there. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to adjust this. Comes up about halfway. Okay, and same thing. And then my third line. In this section, you'll see that I've begun to make my downward lines. This is where I'm creating my small little checkerboard. The only thing to be careful of is, again, you want an even number so that you can alternate black and white. I'm going to want to do the same around the top. I'm going to do some checkerboards coming around this handle. And then we're going to do some triangles. But let me get the squares painted first, the checkerboard done first, and then I'll worry about what that's going to look like. When it comes to painting these little squares, I do prefer just a little squared off tip brush. And to do this, it's easiest to kind of, I dab a little paint in the middle, and then I start up at a top edge, and I just try and take my brush sideways and down, and then flip around, do the other side, and across. So it's just kind of working, flipping it around, going the other end, and doing the same thing. So just as you're trying to get the hang of it, just using that squared off brush and just kind of going across, filling in, going across, filling in toward the center, going across, filling in toward the center, just tends to make it a little bit more even. Now, we're not taping this off, we're doing this all freehand, so is it gonna be perfect? No, but it's gonna look awesome. So I defy anybody else to give you grief over it, although there'll always be someone. So you just need to make sure that you are alternating your squares as you go. That's the only thing that you have to worry about, is just making sure that you're keeping, oh, I just smudged that, is that you're just keeping your squares in the right place, and then you're good to go. Now, because I sealed this beforehand, I can easily fix any smudges that I might make while my paint is wet, which is a plus. So I'm going to paint all my squares here and all my squares up here, and then I'll get back at ya so you can see the progress, and we can start looking at going in the center. I just wanted to show you a bit of a close-up of me painting the squares. Not because it's fabulous, but just to give you a bit of an idea. And in particular, I wanted you to note where my baby finger is. Always, 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 it is planted on the actual pot. That's where my stability comes from. So whether I'm resting the knuckle, whether I'm using the tip of the baby finger, it's always in contact with the pot, and that gives me a steadier hand. Not perfectly steady, but it does serve as a base and an anchor for you, and helps you be able to create straighter lines, smoother lines, a little bit more confidence as you're going through it. Trust me, it helps. In this clip, I just wanted to show you the little bit of a cheat that I did. You can see the top of the pot is already lined. I'm just taking a Sharpie and kind of finishing off the tops of each of my squares where it would have been white. It looked really unfinished without that, and quite honestly, I did not trust me to be able to do really fine lines with just black paint on a thin paintbrush. If you can, go for it. I didn't. All right, so this is where we're at with our teapot so far. It's pretty cute, I'm liking this. Okay. What I want to do is I want to put some diamonds, like a harlequin pattern, through the middle. Now, you can tell that means there's going to be small diamonds here and bigger diamonds here. So what I am looking to do is just kind of roughly draw in the middle a small diamond. You can kind of see that I've roughed that in with pencil, and a small one here, doing the same. And then these diamonds in the middle are going to be, oh, that's really off, are going to be elongated, meaning, you know, this one's going to be super tall and the points are all going to meet, but the shape of the diamond is going to be taller or fatter depending upon kind of what I need to do to make it work. So I'm thinking it'll look okay. You know, you won't know till you get the black paint on. I'm just looking here thinking this one needs to be over a little bit more. And you can see me using the eraser on my pencil which is one of the benefits of having sealed this prior. And note the complete lack of any kind of straight line. Okay, so I am just going to simply take my paints and take my brush and start painting in those diamonds. And again, if I need to straighten out a line, I'll use my Sharpie to do that. I really don't agonize over it, but I did need to draw those flatter lines in there, I mean, around the edge, because there's no way I'd be able to get that nicely straight with just my paintbrush. Maybe you can. I know I can't. And once it's sealed, it'll all be fine. And again, this is gonna look hand painted. It's not gonna look like it was perfectly printed or that it came from a transfer and I just rubbed it on. It's definitely gonna have that painted by hand look, which for me is perfectly okay. All right. Oh, I think that's gonna be cute. Okay, I'm gonna carry on and I'll see you when that part's done. Let me show you how my diamonds turned out. So we started with the little one here and went bigger and then slowly smaller. So you can see that they're not like perfect shaped, and I like that. I mean, this is kind of funky and it kind of works. I did do the black swirl down here and then just elongated kind of squares down here, just kind of filling in that space. Now, what I want to do is I want to add some gold. And I just have a Deco Art metallic gold. This is like a bright gold. And I've used this a number of times. I like the shade of it. And it's got a little bit of translucency. So if you're really, really good with a paintbrush, you could do your little dots. I don't find that works really well for me. So I tend to use things like flat nail heads. I'll dip that into my paint and then use it to do my little dots. They just tend to be a little bit more consistent and I have a little bit of better handle on it. So I have like a big one, I have either end of a cork, little flathead screws. I mean, anything round works. So I'm just going to start with that. I will have to use my paintbrush when I get in to try and do like, you know, like a little tiny dot right in here because my nail's not gonna fit. So weird spots, I'll use my paintbrush. Otherwise, you know, like little ends of dowels. I'm just looking at my dowel going, oh, that's not a bad size. So you know what? It's like any of those little things. I'm thinking that's kind of a nice one. So anything like that works. Use it. Yeah, I'm just looking for something to dig out some of my paint here onto my page because I like to have something like that to dip into. So I am just got some paint over here, dipping this in and just testing it out first. Always good. Now, what I like is I'm going to do this right in all the corners of those little squares, which one hides the fact that they don't all match up perfectly. So, you know, where it might have been more of an oops, it just ends up looking cute. And it's a way of hiding all those little flaws. Now what I like is that this is a nice soft gold, so it's not like a bright in your face, but you could do a red on something like this, so you're just adding little touches of red in there if you wanted. Bright yellow. Yeah. It's yours, whatever works. So let me do a couple more of my little dots, and then I'll show you what I mean about how uniform they end up looking using this technique. Can you see all those little gold dots, how precise they are when I'm not. I'm not that precise. But again, I'm anchoring my baby finger there to be able to keep my hand as steady as possible. And that's the best tip ever. All right, I have all of my dots on, top and bottom. And what I'm looking at doing now is taking a fine paintbrush and just trying to outline the big diamonds and the big stripes in gold. We'll see how that goes. But I did the lid so you can see just the rough gold, the top of this. You can see how much that just kind of adds. So I'm not looking at doing tons of gold all over, but I do want to get all these big black areas outlined. So it's just taking a fine paintbrush, anchoring that finger again, and just doing the best I can to follow the edge of all of those black areas. I will go back in and add a dot in the middle of each of those. I'm not going to do it at the top because I've got all the little dots running around, but after I've done my lines, I will add. Now, there's a bit of a translucency to this gold paint, so it's not super opaque, which I kind of like because then it's not just solid gold. It also means it gives me a little bit of room for not being perfectly straight because it's not so solid and you can't see that. So I'm going to get all these pieces outlined, add my dots, and then come on back to you for the final look. Again, you know, with this, it's just kind of fun. It's kind of funky. It's kind of cute. That's all I'm going for. Playing with the shape that it already had. So I had been dying to give something like this a try, not knowing how my old hands, how steady they would be. So far not too bad. Not perfect, but not bad. Well, here we are with our finished little teapot. I did seal it again with the Mod Podge dishwasher. Just again, so it gives a little bit more of a coating that's going to stand up to water. I mean, don't put this in the dishwasher, but if you wanted to use it for some plants or things like that, then at least as you're dumping out the excess water and you're wiping it down, it's going to be fine and you're not going to be wiping away your hard work, which would make me cry. But, so I'll tell you, this is my first time trying to draw squares and stuff on wonky surfaces. I mean, I do things like that on furniture where I'm able to tape it off and I'm able to do it square. It was actually a lot of fun. It was very soothing. I just enjoyed doing something that was very sort of meticulous and kind of picky. It is not perfect. I mean, you saw I was not measuring things out. So, you know, really, this triangle does not look anything like this triangle. I mean, diamond, right? I just kind of roughly drew it in. I'm okay. Who's going to be looking at two sides at the same time? And if they do, they're no friend of mine. It's just really cute. I could see doing this with some multiple colors and doing some brights and having some fun with it. And I lucked out in finding a really wonky, fun shape teapot, but you could do this with any shape. You could do this with an old cookie canister and starting to just, you know, have fun and brighten them up and do something a little bit fun and a little bit funky. So this is my first, but you know, just judging from how much fun I had with it, it's not going to be my last. But you can see it's got the little gold dots. They're very subtle, but they just kind of add to it, kind of coordinates with the little gold top. See what you think. If you're out thrifting and you see kind of a fun little teapot or a cookie jar that you just think, oh, you know what? Maybe I could have a little bit of fun zhuzhing it up. Give it a try. Let me know what you think, as always. And yeah, I'm just going to go admire my handiwork for a while, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.